pretty clear priority of the government's aged care.
Well, it should be a priority. We've had 22 reports now with damning evidence talking about the neglect in aged care. Of course, what I'd like to see is a proper blueprint from the government about implementing all the Royal Commission's recommendations. That's a critical part of it. And I guess when we look at this spending, there have been estimates that to implement the Royal Commission's recommendations, it will take more than this. But of course, the details are yet to be out. But obviously, a priority needs to be home care packages, and I hope what we will see is the wait list completely removed when it comes to home care packages.
It is a lot of money, but it is also a long way short of what the Royal Commission called for.
It is a lot of money. It's a comprehensive response, but you know what it shows is that our government has been good economic managers, that we can make sure that we use taxpayers' money wisely and put it to where we need to. And after the Royal Commission for Aged Care and those stories that came out of it, it's clear that this is a sector that needs more money to get more people into work here so that we can improve services.
So if it does end up, we don't know everything yet, but if it does end up falling short of what the Royal Commission called for in terms of funding, do we at least need an explanation from the government as to why?
Well, this isn't a line in the sand, right? So this isn't a package and we say, all right, that's it, we're done with the Royal Commission. The Royal Commission gave us a lot of comprehensive recommendations that we will continue to monitor over a long period of time. This is a good funding injection, $18 billion. But what we want out of the aged care sector is, of course, the highest possible standard for aged care residents and to get rid of some of these stories. And that's going to be an ongoing process.
So when you said it's not as much money as the Royal Commission called for, is Labor saying it would tip in any extra money?
Well, we need to see what the government's planning and where the government's priorities are. And Anthony Albanese will outline in his budget reply, along with up until the election, our priorities. But it is the government that needs to respond to the Royal Commission and needs to outline how they're doing that.
All right. Well,
and, you know, that if the government falls short of that, they've got to answer to the people.
We'll find out soon enough. We do know the government's plan on childcare. Will Labor support the legislation in Parliament?
Well, we haven't seen any legislation at the moment.
Well, you know the plan.
Well, the start date is 2022, July 2022. That will be after an election. So for the government to be playing this politics on this issue is quite frankly embarrassing. And do you know what this is, Tom? This is more about quelling the disagreement in their own party room. We have LNP members, many from Julian State, saying they won't necessarily support this package.
Okay, I'm just asking what Labor will do on the...
We'll need to see the details.
But we know what they're doing.
Well, we don't know when. No, the government has said they plan to start this in July 2022.
But is that your only criticism when it
No,
starts?
and of course, Labor has a better plan on the table.
We know that.
No. At the moment, Tom, we have two plans starting on the same date at the moment. Labor's plan that will support more families with more money for longer, and the Liberal Party's plan. If we see legislation, if we see a date change, we'll have a look at it. We haven't seen any of this. Quite frankly, if the government wasn't planning to, if the government was planning to do this properly, then they would have had all their ducks in a line by now.
The date change was a strange one. The Minister even saying, we'll try to get it done earlier, but it's the IT systems. Sounds, we can't get it in order even to start on January?
Well,
how bad are the IT systems?
Well, I don't know about the IT systems. There are practicalities to these things, but I do think that, you know, what Australians can be sure of is that we're going to respect the taxpayers' dollar. Amanda tries to make a virtue out of spending more money. That's not necessarily the be-all and end-all. It's about supporting women back into the workforce if that's what they want to do.
About
and our childcare package is going to be far more targeted to getting them back into work if that's what
I'm asking about the date, and I know you know how this system works with children, and at the end of the year, they always check how much support you got versus payments, and you can get, you know, a check from the government. So this could start in January. And then you could get it, you know, the government could sort out a refund after June 30. The government's choosing not to start it by January. Why not?
Well, we've outlined about when it's going to start.
But why?
Well, potentially if we can do it sooner, well, then we might. But that's let the Minister have a look at that. And in the meantime, we're going to announce this as a comprehensive package to support Australian families, as we have supported them throughout this pandemic, and to get, if women choose to get back into work, to have that targeted support for low and middle income families.
It can start earlier.
Not the broad brush.
It can start earlier if you want. With the stroke of a pen, even if the IT system catches up later in the year, you could start it on January 1. That's a choice.
Well, there are a lot of funding priorities as part of this budget.
Right. So it's a priority.
A lot of funding.
It's not IT systems, it's a priority.
Well, it's certainly a significant priority to support working families, that's for sure, with childcare, as there are a lot of priorities, including in putting $18 billion into aged care.
We might need new IT systems. Who knows?
Well, try that one. That's a challenge. in itself.
Infrastructure announcement today. Queensland.
Yes.
Not faring that well. Population to dollar, is it?
Oh, no, I think we've done incredibly well. There's always a lot of money flowing into Queensland because you've got a lot of Queensland
Twice
LNP
as much for New South
MPs.
Wales and Victoria?
No, you've got a lot
Happy
of
with that?
Queensland LNP MPs who are absolutely flying the flag for Queensland, getting a lot of infrastructure bang for our buck.
But not compared to
because
other
of
states.
infrastructure. No, that's not true.
From today's announcement, it's true.
I don't think that's true, Tom, because we have a lot of projects that have been over a number of budget cycles that are pouring money into Queensland to get us the infrastructure that we need. If we had a state government, a state Labor government who was more willing to chip in rather than continually holding out the hat for their budget failures,
All right.
there would be more in the tin. But right now, it's the federal government doing the heavy lifting.
What have you made of today's announcement, Amanda?
Well, look, quite frankly, when it comes to infrastructure, the government has a lot of big announcements, but they failed to deliver. There was some big announcements before the last election on car parks, park and rides. They've failed to deliver that. So I take most infrastructure announcements with a grain of salt when it comes to this government because they don't often get built.
SA did pretty well on a population versus money footing, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, once again, there are always a lot of announcements with this government, but not often a lot of delivery.
If you want to hand some of the money back to Queensland, Amanda,
it
if that's
doesn't
your
get
announcement,
spent.
you're quite welcome
I mean,
to do that.
ultimately, that's what I want to see is infrastructure money that gets spent that delivers economic return. It isn't about pork barrelling. It is about economic
This
return
government's
for the
pouring
country.
more money into infrastructure than any government before, and we'll always
Announcements,
have,
a lot of
have
announcements,
more
not a
money.
lot of
to spend.
delivery.
It was interesting because we
Services,
had the minister on, just for example,
Yes.
Gawler, the electrification of Gawler, and I
Yeah.
know I'm getting a bit
Yeah,
nitty-gritty
sorry,
here.
not out of the electric
But it was
Brian,
announced
isn't it?
today, and it's actually $60 million more for it for the same project. It's just more expensive. I mean, announcing that today and 3 years ago, that's
Sure,
double dipping.
but that's not the only infrastructure project.
it's not.
And to
But you
not
understand
announce
cynicism.
and to not announce extra funding means that project would have ground to a halt, right? So
Well, it ground to the halt when
Maybe
you
there
announced
could
it,
be
didn't
maybe
it?
there could be an
sees through its
announcement section and a
commitments.
re-announcement section on the media release.
It would make it easier for journalists, perhaps, Tom. But
Bit of
we are
transparency.
we are simply upfront about how much money we're putting into each project. What terminology you want to use for it
All right.
is your own. But we are putting more money into infrastructure, and we can do that. We will always have more money for services because we're better financial managers, and we don't have this endless spending like the Labor Party.
Oh,
was
I would say that you've gone into quite significant debt and
If it was
deficit,
up to-
Julian. So
if it was up to you,
I don't
Amanda,
think
we'd-
that line came out of the old playbook.
No.
It's not really relevant
For
anymore,
example,
is it?
you said the world and the sky would fall in if JobKeeper ended. It hasn't. If it was up to you, you would still
Well, what
have
about that?
broad
That's a
brush
good
spending,
point.
right?
Yeah.
JobKeeper, the
So-
landing's been better than Labor predicted. Isn't that true?
So to be quite frank, if what the LNP are
It was a
saying
yes or no. You
and the
can give a yes or
Morrison
no. It
government
better,
is
hasn't it,
saying
than what you
is
said.
that there are no businesses, every business should be happy, that everything's back rosy for every business across the country that's been affected by COVID, then they're living in a fantasy. I talk
What-
to businesses
hang on.
all the time
We can't
that
go
are affected.
anecdotal though. We're looking at the macro right now. Labor said it will be a disaster if JobKeeper ends. It's ended. Has it been a disaster?
Well, we called for targeted support,
the answer I think
ongoing
you're looking
targeted
for.
support. Of course, I'm pleased that things in the economy are doing better as a result of the
It's
hard
better
work
than
of the
Labor thought.
Australian,
That's fair enough.
than
More jobs than
economists
before the
predicted. It's better than some economists predicted.
And you predicted.
But to suggest that somehow there are not parts of industry through no fault of their own that are still not struggling, while restrictions stay in place and while the borders are shut, we'll have businesses that'll struggle. Until the LNP get their vaccine rollout right, then they will still continue to struggle.
Just briefly on this then, I mean, tourism businesses in Queensland, they're going to fold from now on without support and they can't survive without international
Well,
visitors. Do you feel for them?
Well, of course, and that's why there's still targeted support.
These loans aren't going to do the trick, are they?
we want to support Australian business as we have throughout the pandemic, but we have to be careful on the international borders, Tom. You know, Australians have made a lot of sacrifices to get us into the great position that we're in, enjoying a lifestyle that other countries in the world aren't able to enjoy.
Sounding
at
like
the
state
moment.
premiers now.
No,
Bit of a
I'm
full
just,
circle.
Has been a bit of a
I'm just
reversal for you,
I'm just
Julian.
urging caution because, you know, we want to be careful about these hard-won gains. The borders will reopen in the future, but this pandemic has taught us not to go too far in advance, to make the decisions with the information you have in front of you. We will need skilled workers in the future, but right now we're focused on the vaccine rollout and a pandemic budget to support Australia.
We'll see. I wouldn't get too excited if you're out there looking to book an international holiday. We're clearly getting that rhetorical push.